Hello, hello. Welcome, Joel Black, to the AI and QA newsletter review. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Butch. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back. I know you've been on the channel, but it's been quite some time ago before you were last on the channel. So we're glad you're back. Sergei is sadly out sick today. So, Sergei, sometimes you got to get an upgrade every once in a while.
We gotta boost that vitamin C.
I was talking about you, Joel.
Oh. Uh,
But yes, you gotta get.
thought you were sick shaming him.
No, not doing that. So we do hope he feels better. But
Yes.
while he's out, Joel's here to fill in, and yeah, he knows what to do when those
Mhm.
things come. So, um, well, let's kick things off. We are on issue 18, and maybe before we dive all the way in, I do want to just give a quick shout out to our sponsor in this week's newsletter, which is Browser Stack. They've got a QA Leadership Summit coming up. So, a lot of leads who are leading teams through this AI era and quality. It's going to be a good opportunity to just learn and grow. So, if you're a leader in QA, or you're an aspiring leader, or you just want to hear and know, like, what do leaders talk about in their conversations? Because all I do is test all day, or vibe code or write code all day. This would be a great chance for you to jump in and join. So you can register via clicking on the image, clicking the button to go and attend this event on July 22nd. So that's the quick shout out there. But without further ado, Joel, why don't we get into newsletters?
Yeah.
What did you find interesting? We'll start with you.
Yeah. Uh, there was a lot of interesting stuff in this one. There's a lot of good stuff to pour over. I have a lot of bookmarks from here too. Um, let's see. I really just kind of honestly even the first headline there, WebWrite. That was I do want to talk about the take, but I thought that was interesting. So I hadn't heard of this yet, and so I thought that was really interesting. I was like, this seems to be possibly a very powerful tool.
We'll see if LinkedIn wants to. So, based on what you read, what is WebWrite?
So seems to be something that can take, correct me where I'm wrong, can kind of take kind of common language and be able to use that to efficiently like navigate a browser. The concept, I think it says like what, giving a terminal to an agent and just letting it can build in a script to do things, but not necessarily build tests, but to automate actions. I think that's a real key distinction here, and I think what the author was trying to make the author was trying to make clear too was like this is like this can build you scripts to do things, but not necessarily in the concept of like assertions and testing and expectations and things like that.
That's right, man. Expectations is important, right? Any test that doesn't have an expect, is it really a test? Yeah,
Yep.
fun times.
Yep. A lot of code reviews before for a lot of respectfully for junior folks that have opportunities to grow there, where they built things that would like, hey, I'm going to click here and I'm going to go there, but I had no assertions that happen. It's like you're really just kind of just clicking things. You're not actually verifying anything, and so this kind of aligns a little bit with that. Thought
That's
this
right.
was neat. Thought this was neat too. The whole 8x token uh, increase or whatnot. Like, but you do get, I don't know, some better integrations for wherever it is that you're plugging it in. And
Sure. And I would assume as a codex skill, like I'm curious what skill was being used, because having a search task, yeah, that seems ridiculous, in my opinion. Because
mhm,
in the end, it's still using codex under the covers. Like so, WebWrite, the what it is, I would say it's probably closest to Playwright CLI
mhm,
or Playwright MCP. So the idea is, and we'll like pull up the website. I think there's a GitHub repo
mhm,
maybe at the end of this, or maybe not. We'll just go find it. Um, so fun thing, this is created by Microsoft.
mhm,
GitHub. So this is a Microsoft tool that was released. And if we just see over here, it's a, basically this has really been focused and tuned to create, like complete a lot of those long horizon web tasks. So there's all these different benchmarks that exist. And this is like a tool that you can basically leverage with AI to go complete long running tasks through language. I did think it was interesting that it's using like Python as the driver, which I mean, that's like typically what you see when you're dealing with like a lot of these AI tools. But yeah, it's AI tool. There's a whole lot of Playwright being used, and there's different backends that you can plug in. But the idea is this thing can just get up and go. There are some plugins and skills. So specifically, I've actually changed over my OpenClaw server to use WebWrite just by default, just as a test. So when it's doing anything on the web with searching, if it's doing, anything, it's grabbing for this tool, using these plugins that exist. I don't think it's using the plugin. I think I'm actually just using the skill, which I believe lives down here. And you can kind of see like what this skill is. So it was kind of interesting to me where the comparison was like Codex skill versus WebWrite. It's like, well, like WebWrite, you can use WebWrite using a skill. This skill really just limits the tools that are used and makes it really easy to work with it, basically by giving it the scripts that it needs, but also, creating different, modes, or it looks like there's a default one-shot mode or a CLI mode that it can work with to do different things. So cool, good stuff.
One thing I was a little curious on, I don't know if it was too deep here, but like of how it kind of handled credentials, if that mattered, or if it had any kind of handling, or if that's just like, it's just a variable or something. Okay, yeah, they're off.
So it just says author final script, instrument it per contract. Yeah, so I mean that is like one of the hard problems with like any web automation or test automation is like, what do you do with auth? What do you do with like the state of a logged in user? And how do you get there? And then two is like, how do you persist those things? There's a lot of different methods. I know we have worked on a lot together over the years. So awesome. Well, I will go check out WebWrite. Very cool tool. This was a great write up and take. So if you want to just get a head start on like, hey, how's this tester used it, or this guy used it, go check it out. So, well, what else you got, Joel?
Let's see. Bounce around. Well, just a little bit further down. So Claude tested everything except the one thing that mattered. That one hurt. That one felt that one a little bit. So I know I experienced like probably a similar thing with that, working with trying to migrate over like kind of core things of like a test framework, not even a framework, but like an element to it for like working with databases and stuff. So injecting, data and things like that. And then respectively for these environments needed to do some cleanup as well. And so trying to kind of mimic that over, it brought over a lot of the different kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to take care of this table here. We're going to take care of this table over here. And then it just proceeded to completely bypass an entire collection, of tables that it needed to delete from. And or in migrating that over, and was just like, wait, hang on, is there a discrepancy here? Just me going back and forth with the LLM, and it's like, oh yes, I'm like, really?
Yeah. What are you thinking? Well, why? I mean, one of my favorite things is like, why did you do that? And it comes back with, well, I shouldn't have, whatever. Like that's the first thing. Like it reaches the first thing is like, hey, I shouldn't have done that. Let me see what I can do, to fix that or whatever. So,
but yeah, like
anything specific in this this article?
So just kind of some of the tweaks that it was kind of explaining in was just like, oh yeah, like like it's going to kind of try to pursue what's easiest, like things that's kind of relevant to it. So I kind of like some respectful questions too. So like obviously I don't know their true situation of everything that happened here, but I know they kind of were working with getting coverage later, but it was kind of surprising. Like, oh, they're not things around post and like that were kind of handled in coverage earlier, or even kind of maybe leveraging something like a feature map, for that.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe trying to kind of have visibility into your metrics early could help, or could help situations like when I'm going through, even when I'm kind of handling things, making sure that you know check for things first early.
Yeah. I think that's important, right? And I think another thing to help surface these things, right, is when you're working with an LLM to refactor, whether it's test or code, uh, you can ask Claude to report back up like what's happening, right? Give you some observability. Now, I have seen situations where Claude has said, "Hey, all the tests are passing," and the code can't compile. I mean, that was an article maybe 13 weeks ago
Hmm.
where we saw that, and that one's really just like stuck with me because it's like these LLMs that they are trying to accomplish the goal, and the goal is to a lot of times stay positive, but also like you know finish their work, and they'll lie to you to say that their work is done. All the tests have run, code can't compile. That's a problem.
Hmm.
So nice. Anything else in here worth calling out?
I don't think so. Those are kind of the main things that I grabbed out of here.
This one. Then Claude took the site down. So just one note. Uh, you driving Claude took the site down.
Mm, mm,
We'll leave it at that. Like
fair.
you're the one who gave it those permissions to do that. You're the one who said do these things. You're the one who's working in production. Like maybe not the best place to work with Claude. Assuming that's kind of what happened. Of course,
Mm.
I didn't. There might be more context here, but
Oh, one other quote on this one I thought was really good was, obvious and automatic are different.
nice. The fix is obvious. Test the core flow. Test it first. Test it before you test anything else. But obvious and automatic are different things in Claude Code. Despite being told explicitly in bold, I don't think bold works anymore. If it ever did, in the project instructions, did one and not the other. Yeah, and I think just kind of to wrap this up, the big takeaway here is these tools are non-deterministic. Any text you have in a skill file or in a CloudMD or in a prompt file, that is only guidance.
Hmm.
Like the only way you have true guardrails is by adding in pre hooks or post hooks into Claude to run a script to do something deterministic. I will say a lot of times it does get it right, but
Hmm.
there are times where it's going to go off and do things that you would have never ever thought to do, and that's where it lives. So
Yep.
good stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into my take up here.
Yeah.
I would love to hear some of your thoughts around this. I mean, these are my thoughts,
Hmm.
so I would love to hear your thoughts about my thoughts.
So yeah, I agree. I'm not into test healing. I remember when it was first kind of being kind of heard about and things like that. Like, the concept was interesting, but like, and maybe other people's situation are different than my situation. But I don't have nowadays. I really haven't had too many issues regarding to where like oh no, the locator changed. Um, you know, just with my products, I probably have other issues where there's more around race conditions or environment issues, or maybe SREs are changing out back-end infrastructure for QA, testing it out before it goes to production, and then therefore everything else is 20 times slower until we get it resolved. Not usually something so kind of on the nose. Um, the that and I really don't like, so you know like automation doesn't necessarily like find bugs. It detects change. And so I really so some of them probably kind of give you more communication than others, various toolings and stuff. But like uh, I kind of like knowing when there's change. uh, and sure, like if something could maybe, I'd rather it fail and then report back at, hey, I found this thing. Did you mean? Or would this maybe
Yeah.
even provide a, if it is something like a locate, but that could at that point you could even do a lot of different kind of ways of triaging. But yeah, so I don't like the kind of like silently passing, silently failing, and
I think a lot of people are like pushing towards that. Like, look how much stuff that I don't get to do, but at a minimum, you have to have a review, right?
hmm
I do
hmm
think the golden example would be your test runs, it fails, and you have something, and it goes and does some of the debugging, it does some of the analysis, and it prevents to you, here's what we found, right? Rather than the stack trace on like, hey, this button timed out with a bunch of other code that if you're brand new to coding, it probably scares the mess out of you. To just have a nice written summary, hey, we got this error. You can click here to see it if you want. But here's what it means, or here's what we think it means. I don't think an LLM would say, here's what I think. It's just very matter of fact. Um, but there's always a confidence level underneath. And I actually saw an interesting thing yesterday, which I'm like, I need to bake this into my analysis steps and
hmm
my test skills. Is not just post what is the what are the options or what could it be, but actually have with each option a progress bar on like out of this like 0 to 100%.
hmm
Like I want you to fill in green how confident you are. So like maybe
yeah.
it's 70%, and it's like a larger line where something else is like maybe 20% and it's a shorter line.
hmm
I saw that when it came to like choosing your options as far as like which way to go when working with Claude, but you could definitely do that with an analysis well, even if it was just a percentage that you have. So you can see like how confident is your AI tool. What's it telling you?
hmm hmm
You still that could be wrong too, so don't trust it completely, but it can definitely give you a sense for is it on the right track or not based on you just seeing that and asking the question, what would you think when you saw this error? So yeah, so in this article you probably also noticed there's actually a lot of like test healing sections
Yep.
down towards the bottom. I moved them a lot of them to quick links because I'm like, they can just live down here in their little
hmm
area. But I do think there's some interesting ways to go about those things. And yeah, any other thoughts on test healing in general, or any articles we want to dive into?
Probably not specifically on test healing per se, but a fair take. Yeah, there was a lot on test healing, but I would say it was also interesting too, seeing another angle of hype, which was that in exploratory testing, and so there's a lot of hype around that as well, which I did like.
Yes. Have you were you able to read through this one? I know.
Yes, I did read that one. That one was
Yeah.
that one was good. Yeah.
Callan puts out some long articles, but it's nice in dark mode with some
hmm
nice pink flavors. You can always like make it a little bigger if your eyes are bad.
hmm
And yeah, any good takeaways here? What did you think?
So there were a lot of, so I appreciate that they share their skills and things like that, and so and some framework things. So maybe you never know when someone's kind of coming into this game if they already have opinions about their things or not, or just seeing what other folks have done, and getting ideas for like, oh, you could have a skill for that, and see where that fits into my flows. And so I do appreciate the transparency of things that they have with that. And so they kind of had done some things that already that I had thought about doing. So like, which is probably not that revolutionary, but having agents, or maybe not agents, but thoughts around targeted heuristics. And so letting it know like it's like that's at least a way of how like humans work with it. And so maybe that can be something that can help the LLM in framing the context for all the different kinds of things that could be there. Because as we've seen, like Claude did everything, wrote tests for everything except for the one thing. That kind of framing and context, kind of matters. Or obvious is not, automatic. Uh, and so having a lot of different lenses and I think they use that term, and frames and contexts for like, hey, look at it again from this point of view. Look at it from this point of view. How is the data? How do oh, you're simulate someone who's an elderly person who would be using this. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would it be effective for them? And so anyway, so I think heuristics are going to be very powerful for getting different types of information, because you just an LLM is only going to look at things like so many ways, like as opposed to like say how a human can see something, and there's already like a million different connection points, of something, how something is. Like, is it, is it clear? Is it good? Do you trust it? Does it seem interactable? Do you feel confident in how you're going to use it? When the LLM is kind of may not be able to make those kind of judgments as much. To be able to make a critical thing, it may just read a DOM and like, there's the OK button, it's right there.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, exploring I think is really great.
Yeah, I think I mean specifically like these skills and this approach, this is actually a lot of what I train about just
Mhm.
in my day job. So we talk about the non-determinism side of these things. We talk about different ways to leverage AI skills and AI tools in our testing. And I agree, right? It's very, very powerful to quickly get a broad view and specifically go more in depth than I could in the amount of time.
Mhm.
One example I can think of is there was a bug in production on something I was testing. It was like just a really long um, form to fill out. So I had
Mhm.
like 30 different inputs, and somehow, basically, when submitting for like 3 or 4 cases in production, there was an item that was required that was missing in the database, basically in production. So the idea is like, how did this even happen? Like, you're not allowed to submit this form with this. So, yeah, I basically sent like AI to go. I want you to go, run 20 different scenarios. Yeah, I kind of gave it a box to play in, and here's what I'm looking for. See if you can figure out what's going on. I didn't find that problem, but it did find like 3 other issues on the page where there were different conditions where when you click something, something basically became like deactivated when it shouldn't have been, or something like that. So it
Mhm.
was very interesting in that I could, without me having to go explore and click all the buttons, I could really push my tool to do that. So,
Mhm. A thing that I kind of see though, like with when it comes to like AI and exploratory testing, I feel like a lot of the arguments come around the definition of exploratory testing. And
how would you explain exploratory testing,
so
Joel?
so I do think that so exploratory testing, is a process of exercising and learning, and pivoting your actions based off of the reactions, the what you see behavior on the screen or whatever it is that you're working with. um, and so it is good to have like structure to that. So a lot of folks may just see exploratory testing is, oh, that's when you don't know anything about it and you just go click around. um, and when there you do need to have like a targeted
Yeah.
structured approach. um, so a lot of folks, so there's been tools that have claimed to be exploratory testing in AI when really they're kind of more like almost chaos testing, um, or monkey testing, like
Monkey testing.
monkey
Yeah,
testing.
I think
Yes.
that's what we used to call it.
Yeah.
So
And so like just go to a page and then just, click a thing and then see where that takes you and then click a thing. And so there's a little bit better level of intelligence with that where it's like, oh, I click a page and then, the LLM, can then now see like, oh, this is the information of this page. Where do I want to go now? And so, having something that can kind of drive some of that to kind of where you kind of build, to kind of try to take data and turn it more into information, I think is good. But yeah, so you have a lot of tools that I've seen, or tools or approaches that has literally been more like along the lines of monkey testing.
yep.
And then another on the kind of other side of the spectrum is, folks would say like, oh, this is, this can be like automated, or not automated, but I don't remember the word I've heard, but it's not exploratory testing because it can't learn. And so being stringent to the definition in such a way to say like, no, this can never be that, but it's this, but it's actually this over here, and that's pretty close.
Well, I mean, can the LLM learn about your system? I think yes.
In
Has
ways.
it snapshots? I mean, learning is maybe a long word. It
Yeah.
can take in text and the DOM and run it against its algorithms and make more decisions based off of that. So,
Hmm.
is that learning? Maybe not in like the human sense, but
Yeah.
I do think it is. It is more informed actions, right? So whether they're right or wrong, that's a different question. But um, in the end, right, if you create a skill or give your AI tools a charter to go do something to explore and report back, ideally you're learning if you're
Hmm.
reading and paying attention, and you may learn the wrong thing. Like it may report back false results. I mean, that's a risk, right?
Hmm.
There's some non-determinism here. But I would say for the most part, like I have not run into that, but it is a risk.
Hmm.
I've definitely run into where it classified something as a low and it should have been a critical. But again, that was, I gave it, here's some priority and severity, and it made some decisions, and they were just the wrong ones. They were not the ones I would have made. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
all right, let's dive into the skills real quick.
Yeah.
Curious if there's any of these you want to look at and ask a question about.
Let's see. Maybe just, I don't know. Maybe jump straight up into the exploratory testing one.
All right, cool. Here,
Okay,
I'll
so he's
pull
got
up to.
a heuristics reference.
So here's the skill. We're at 211 lines,
Hmm.
or I guess, yeah, 211. Typically, the Claude team, they say keep it under 500 for skills. So I
Hmm.
like that. If you're not familiar with skills, this is how you would call that skill / exploratory testing. And this description here basically this is what gets loaded into context anytime Claude loads. And if you say things like, what should I test here? It's going to basically pattern match and call the skill and load the rest of this into context. If any of these words like really get matched enough. So it's got a role. So we're setting that up. It's got sub agents. It does the deep reading and reasoning. Okay. So this is like an orchestrator type skill. I
Hmm.
like this. I'm going to do something real quick on another screen, but
Hmm.
Joel, why don't you talk through this?
Let's see. Yeah. So sub agent, reading and reasoning, to orchestrator. Context stays high across the run. Owns the actual prompts and the gates. The final report. The sub agents own the thinking. So kind of keeping a separation there. All right. So then references the companion of the heuristics.md alongside the file with a baked-in risk heuristic spine. Okay. Identification, risk identification subagents read that, and the orchestrator does not need to. So kind of separating out some context bloat there. Running the steps. Do not skip the gates. Don't write anything back to a tracker. Yeah.
And
So.
I think the gates, right? I mean, you can ask it to not skip the gates,
Mhm.
but Again, this is guidance. This is not a
Skip the gates.
guardrail. It may still skip the
It may
gates.
skip the gates.
It might do the wrong thing. So here's the different gates that they're giving us. And I like to call these, like, these are really steps in the workflow. That's how I name mine and call it. So locate the source, select AC, set the risk appetite, build context. So this is a subagent. I like how it's kind of calling this out. Identify risks, consolidate, duplicate. So this is back to the orchestrator. So you've got this orchestrator kind of spawning off different things to do different things. And okay, it's actually got a lot of back and forth. So I'm sure this skill, my guess is it will probably be able to process a whole lot of stuff, but it'll probably burn through some tokens just with some of the chit chat back and forth. Any specific things you want to dive into on how this looks?
No, not too specific. We can, if we want to do a quick glance at the heuristics and stuff, see what they've got included. Sure. Unless you want to go deeper on it.
I'll just do a quick scan. So, this is, so we're kind of giving, like, here's the acceptance criteria and a risk. So
indicator.
Yeah. Consolidate, duplicate. I think that is important when you're working through these things as you're exploring. Like, there's going to be some duplication, right? There's a risk, right? Something gets merged in when it shouldn't be, but that is a something to consider. I do like this. So this right here is an example of a test report, right? Or an exploratory risk analysis. So by providing this example in your skill, you're actually going to get this back every time, and that's a great practice when it comes to these things. So, and then action safety. Okay. Okay. So I kind of like this. Like, charters discover information. They're not pass fail test cases. I think that's important. All right. Heuristics. There's some names we know.
Yep.
Anything you want to dive into any of these?
Not necessarily. Like, I don't know. I could see it is good. So, like, I don't know, kind of hitting like the lens and going through all those things. I could see that again. Like, all of that could take a lot of time and tokens, but it's also what you as a tester would hopefully likely be doing.
Sure. I mean, the goal here, right, is to suss out what are the risks we're dealing with. So, few hiccups, data type attacks. So I know that's from the test heuristic cheat sheet. She's the exploratory testing book author. I know me and you have read maybe some others. Yeah. We've got boundaries and partitions. This is typically where I, in the skills that I train on, like, I focus on this area, but I might have to steal a few of these things and kind of bake them back in. And then human accessibility, how to use these lenses. So this kind of walks you through how to, basically how to categorize these things. So, all right. I think we're at a place where I want to share this. Let's see if I can download this thing. Let's see. Download PNG. All right. Let me stop my share and then move my share around. All right. So we're on this page. So I literally just, like, took the repo, specifically the skill file, and asked my AI tool to visualize it for me, because I like to work off of visualizations.
Okay.
So let me find my Claude. I'm going to save it to download folder. It basically created this PNG. Now I do have this kind of builder that does these things. I'm using Excalibur skill. I'm not sure actually if it used that or not, but this is what Claude Code or Claude, the desktop version.
Hmm.
I just asked it to do this. So you've got your orchestrator, which is really setting 1 and 2, 3, 4, and more are building context using subagents. So
Hmm.
this is kind of like the subagent section. We're getting all that data back, deduplicating it. So it still knows about like what we passed in, which I
Hmm.
think is a good practice. Then we're kicking off some more subagent per risk to go identify these things. So then we're filtering by appetite, writing test charters, assembling the report, and then now we've got this risk report that gets saved as an artifact. So yeah, I think this is a good approach, and I like the idea that each of the subagents are not gonna mess with the context here. So
Yeah.
we're sending this context off. It's doing all the work. It's clicking. It's understanding all the things, and then it's coming back with a summary of the results. So this can still really just be the brain of things. So
Yeah. Nice.
good stuff, Callum. All right. Anything else you want to take a look at? Are you ready for a question?
Let's see. Yes, let's weave in a question.
Let's do a question. All right. This is probably a good one. A good one for you to answer, because I know you're working kind of embedded in test teams. So, do you build your AI writing the code test cases in parallel with development or serially? So, basically, do you build your tests while you're writing your code, or do you write your tests after?
In the team that I'm working on now, we are doing it after, but I think that it can be shifted left to at the time of kind of even grooming your story, and where you actually can kind of have a lot of that already together. I think it's probably fair to keep an eye on if anything changes, because you go through building out your specs and getting it together. Again, a kind of an exploratory testing quote. There's the checking, checking something is like just seeing if it does work, but then
Sure.
exploring is should it should it even exist, or is
Yeah.
it satisfying that way, and so satisfying the need, and so there could be some pivoting. So you could probably likely like, hey, run a follow up thing on it if you think of more
Sure.
things after the fact. But I do think it's good to put as much of that at the beginning as possible.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, really that shift is really a spec driven
Hmm.
development. Like a lot of that is around if you have a heavy spec that is clear, you can write tests around that.
Hmm.
Because the spec, tells you what it's supposed to do, and you can build out your information. I think when it comes to like API layer changes, like and even UI changes, like for the most part, like when it's ready, I can throw a skill at a new feature and get automation written.
Hmm.
So I would actually take the different approach, and I
Okay.
would say don't waste your time trying to write all your tests before code's written, because you have the interfaces you're testing against don't exist yet and
Hmm.
could change from the spec, right? Or maybe something changes big. What you should be doing in those sessions before code's written, as we're refining the spec or refining the story, we should be asking questions about how's this going to work, and start thinking about how would we test it. If I was testing this today, Mr. Developer, Miss Developer, here's what I'm going to do. Here's the buttons I'm going to click on, the order in which I'm going to do it. And it's going to be important that the spec you've built or the prompt you're going to use to help you build the code um, accounts for these edge cases, which I already know because I know how the system works and I know how to test and I know where it's likely going to fail. So I think calling those things out early in the process is really shifting left for me. Um, Writing code before there's something to test, writing test code
Hmm.
before there's something to test, or even test cases. Like, I don't really think that's something I would encourage people to do. I would just say, the minute your code is like ready, like it's developed, and maybe even before it's merged, but it's at a point where the dev says, hey, this should be good to be merged, go explore it then. Go, send your AI tools to go write some tests, and um, not just write tests, but go do the testing itself as well. I think
Hmm.
that's important.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah.
nice. Cool. Do you want another question, or do you have another article you'd like to look at?
Do. Maybe. Mm, there's one thing on an article.
Let's do it.
So I like the one that was about AI doesn't care about your style of acceptance criteria. I think this one's kind of.
Nice.
I think this is kind of short, or my kind of take on it. Um, I've kind of I kind of attribute this to kind of the how models have gotten better.
Yep.
Um, and so, because I'm not the best when it comes to writing very thorough prompts necessarily, but I think what they kind of get to is like just ensure that the points are there.
Yep.
And so, however the styling is, I think some of that language too may be beneficial for you, the reader. And so, if you want it to kind of like, hey, parse this criteria, if you are like if you're into kind of that Gherkin approach of if that's how you think and organize things, like that's probably a great. But as far as assessing the things that you have in there is just a bulleted list or a Gherkin or whatever it is that you have to
Yep.
work with. Um, and so, but yeah, I think they increased the enhancements of foundational models have been a really big
I,
boost to that capability.
I agree. So here's the examples that were used. We'll zoom in here. Um, I'm going to be honest with you, Joel. I hate Gherkin.
Hmm.
I bear with it. I don't talk down to people who love it and use it, but when it comes to my personal preference, it's just I feel like you're fitting you're fitting your square block in like a round hole, and most of the time it fits, but it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't had much like hands-on experience with Gherkin, so like having to actually like write and connect in the code to the language, because when you look at just like the simple thing there at the beginning, it's just like, oh yeah, that seems nice.
Yep.
Oh well, that makes sense. You just kind of bind these blocks of things over there, and it just kind of almost kind of builder patterns it together.
Yeah.
Not really.
I mean,
Sounds
it's
good.
really, I mean, it's you kind of regex is the
Hmm.
magic. It's you regex in, and they're called step functions. That's
Hmm.
that's just how things are wired up. So you get your Gherkin, then your step functions, which takes a piece of that and actually executes the code.
Hmm.
Now, I will say, like, if I was writing that stuff from scratch, I would be like, this is crazy. Like, what do we've got to change today? That would be
Hmm.
like my approach. But the nice thing with AI tools is now I don't have to write all that code. Now I can point a skill that is an expert at writing Gherkin and
Hmm.
writing these step functions, and it can go write the code and handle it. As long as we are following good practices and all the hard things about test automation, your test data, your test auth state, all those things, if they're handled, then a lot of times, like, this is going to go really smooth and fast with these AI tools. It's just a matter of building the right skill, building out the right AI workflow, right? We saw in Callum's, he had a 9-step workflow. I think a lot of times you can get away with 5 steps
Hmm.
to write a Gherkin automation test.
Hmm.
And one of those is going to explore the page to go figure out what needs to be done. I think the difference in kind of my AI automation authoring workflows is I am not using subagents a lot. I'm only any of the browser exploration that happens, like I want that to be a part of the context so it knows like what test code to write, what locators exist, etc. So one nice little call out. So
Yeah.
cool, man. Well, yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the articles and found them useful. There's a lot of other good information out there that we didn't test or we
Yeah.
didn't cover. So if you are watching this, go check out issue 18. Go give it a look over. You know, maybe you find one or two things. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to our YouTube or the newsletter. So this shows up in your inbox on Monday mornings. And I think that's all I got. You have any final words?
Just yeah, thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate it, and thank you, Sergey, for the opportunity. But I hope you feel better. You are loved and missed. So
That's right. Feel better, dude. Well, you know what we do
yep.
here. I don't know if you know. You know. He knows.
Yeah.
There we go. So good. All right. Well, bye, everybody. We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good Tuesday. Next week, we'll be back on Monday. So see y'all then.
Okay, thanks.